Hello and welcome back to the Casual Fanatic. Today's episode is my Premier League team of the season. Now, I thought about doing this a little bit earlier or maybe just wait till the end of the season, but now looking at the landscape of the Premier League, realistically, not much is going to change. The body of the work that all of these players have is cemented enough that you kind of know what's happening. Obviously, a miraculous story, maybe to save someone from relegation, might get them one of the runner-up spots. Maybe it pushes some things around in the top four race. But realistically, I believe that the first team that I have and then the runner-up for each position, I think are set in stone right now. And these are the players I'm happy with. So the way it's going to work is I'm going to do the goalkeeper, right back, the center backs, left back. I'm going to go through all the positions. And for each one, I'm going to give a runner-up. So for the first position, goalkeeper. Now, for me, this one, it's a pretty simple one. I know there has been a debate all season, and some people may have it the other way around, but I do believe that the competition is between Ramsdale and Pope. Two standout English goalkeepers, both having their real first high-tier breakout level seasons. Alisson is always in the conversation because, in my opinion, he's still the best goalkeeper in the world, and therefore he should always be allowed in it, especially when he doesn't have a down year, because that means that bar level is still at the best in the world. If I'm going to offer you who are you going to take as a goalkeeper this year, you're still taking Alisson. But I just believe Ramsdale, the fact that he competed for the title this long, Arsenal have still had a fantastic season. Pope has done well, but there's been more mistakes in his game than Ramsdale's. There have been lulls in the season, as Arsenal really only had one bad stretch. Other than that, they've been almost perfect, which is still not enough to beat City for the league title, sadly. But I think Ramsdale showed up in big games, kept Arsenal in certain games, kept them in moments. Even recently where they've had negative results, it could have been way worse if it wasn't for Ramsdale. So for me, Ramsdale is the main goalkeeper for the team of the season. Now, right back, there wasn't much competition. And the runner-up tells you how little competition there was, especially considering the start he had and the narrative that surrounded him for so long this season. He still has 8 assists this year, more than the right back that actually is winning this. Runner-up is Trent. I believe Trent's been the second best right back in the league this season. Yes, it's been lower than his normal performances, but to me, his regular performances are the best right back in the world. So just because he's had a little bit lower on that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I think the way he's ended the season, the way he's accommodated and been able to deal with the pressures that he's been bestowed upon at the beginning of the season is so impressive. And that's why, for me, I think Trent has to be there, especially with the recent run of assists, the way he's changed up positions. He's playing at a very, very high tier level again, and he's getting this Liverpool defense to work again. And that's why he's so pivotal to that and the entire project at Liverpool. But the winner, and there can only be one, the right back in the team of the season, Kieran Trippier. Part of this Newcastle defense that's been one of the best defenses in the league. He's been part of the best avenue of creation for Newcastle this season, which is him playing high, wide, and right, and being able to create. And he's such a danger from set pieces. He's the leader of the team. He's everything that embodies this new Newcastle project. And I love it, and he has to be in this Premier League team of the season. Let me continue on the same theme. So, again, centre backs, this is where it got pretty tough, because I'll say there's 3 runner-ups that I really want to mention, and then there's 2 that won it. The 3 runner-ups for me are Ake, Lisandro Martinez, and Gabriel. Those 3 all 3 have been consistently brilliant all season. I think Gabriel might have had a few slip-ups, but he's been part of the league leading team for most of the year. And that defense. And he's also been there he stayed injury-free the whole time, And he was there, and he was playing at a high level. And there's a reason why Arsenal are not looking for centre-backs right now, other than in the backup position, because they're very happy with what they have. We'll get onto their other centre-back in a second. But I think Ake has probably been City's best defender all season. I think Manuel Akanji has been great. I think Ruben Diaz has been great, but hasn't been fit the entire time. I think John Stones has been fantastic, but a lot of time hasn't even played in defence. So for me to give him a position as a centre-back in a team of the season when he doesn't even play the most games for his own club, it's tough. But I think Ake has been fantastic the way he's accommodated to his role. I know it's a little bit of a left-back role, but I'd still consider it a left centre-back in a 3 a lot of the time of the season. Now it's more looking like a left-back role. But I think he's been fantastic. I think you've seen the way he's been able to accommodate and compete in 1v1s. He's been able to have the recovery pace. He's comfortable playing out the back. He's been comfortable in different positions. It's really world-class football from Ake. Martinez revolutioned the United defense. The biggest testament I can give to him is, one, everyone shut up about the 5'9" height within a week. Two, United's literal build-up play is worse, and we create less chances when Lisandro Martinez doesn't play. This is a centre back. I've seen him come on in cup games where we couldn't create a chance. You bring on Martinez, he himself starts creating chances. Balls in behind, breaking the defense, line-breaking passes, ball carries from out the defense. He is phenomenal, and I cannot stress how world-class this centre back will be for the future. How important it is that United got their hands on him and didn't let him fall to Arsenal. But going to the top two. The top two is Botman and Saliba for me. Those two deserve to be in it. Newcastle because of the defense, the amount of clean sheets, the way he's managed to come in and seamlessly adjust to the Premier League. With him and Cher, it was a flip of going between the two. I think Botman is the more talented and the longer term project, and the fact that he's managed to adjust to a brand new league. And he's been sensational. He's been ever present. He's fantastic in the air. He's fantastic on the ball. He's strong. This is a centre back that I think Newcastle can build around, and it's not one of the players that they're going to have to start replacing once they try and transition into a different style of football, because they're eventually going to have to transition into a different style of football if they want to be successful at a Champions League Cup competition and a longer form, and it's not going to be through the physicality. And he's one of the players I think can make the adjustment. So can Fabian Schär to an extent. The other centre back is Saliba. He's the centre back of the season, the standout story. I think you've seen how much Arsenal missed him, and I think if he never gets injured, I think Arsenal probably win the league. Let's be honest. I think we all can agree with this. Arsenal win the league if Saliba doesn't get injured. The games he missed, you see they just don't build up from the back. There's not the same amount of consistency. There's not the same amount of quantity. There's not the same amount of quality coming out of the back. They just can't build up the same way. They can't deal with physical threats the same way. The recovery pace that he offers, the composure and the almost leadership that he's managed to bring to this back line is so pivotal that Arsenal don't lose him now. And they consolidate his contract, make sure whatever he wants is fit, because I think I saw his wages and they were not high, and Arsenal are going to have to deal with that because there's going to be big offers coming in from clubs around Europe. Especially clubs like PSG are going to be coming in and be more than happy to offer him these big wages. I think Arsenal have to keep him, and this is the Premier League team of the season centre backs, Botman and Saliba. Going to the left back. Now, this is a toss-up between two people. I think either direction you go is a valid claim. I think Zinchenko and Shaw. It has to be between one of those two. Now, Luke Shaw, I think, has added more overall to his game, and that's why I went with Zinchenko as my runner-up. Zinchenko has been pivotal to the way Arteta has been able to implement his new style of football. He's wanted to adopt the inverted fullback system where Zinchenko is able to come into midfield, be that press-resistant facilitator in there, and able to break line with line-breaking passes. That's what he wanted from his fullback. And that's why Tierney, who's I think is a fantastic left back, and if anything, I think probably Newcastle, we've talked about it quite a bit right now, should look into bringing him in. I think he'd be a fantastic addition to them. But Zinchenko has added a whole other element where he's been able to cover himself defensively for the majority of the time, and this is where the credit also comes to Gabriel, who's been able to cover that left side spaces that sometimes are left by Zinchenko. But the element he's been able to bring into midfield has been fantastic and phenomenal. I just think those certain lapses in some of the big games have really let him down and have let Arsenal down in certain games. And I think the physicality sometimes ends up being a matchup in 1v1s on the wing. He does get helped out with Martinelli's defensive work rate, but I still think we need to see more in a defensive presence from Zinchenko for him to be able to claim the status from Luke Shaw to me. Luke Shaw's physicality is superb, his pace is superb, and we've even been able to see him move into a whole nother position where probably the biggest question mark about Luke Shaw was his defensive awareness and defensive positioning. When he plays centre half, it's almost immaculate. And it's such a weird conundrum with Luke Shaw because when you play him centre half, he's so comfortable on the ball, he's fantastic in the build-up, and he reads the game really well. And then you still have the pace for him. When he plays left back, you also get the playmaking and the, I would say, top-tier ball control and playmaking ability that he has with elite delivery. For me, that's why he has to be the Premier League team this season left back. He's been fantastic the way he's played for United, and he's so pivotal whether he plays left back or left centre back. Going to the midfield. Now, there's three runners-up I want to address before I name the three midfielders. The three runner-ups are Bruno Guimaraes, Caicedo, and Douglas Luiz. You might be questioning why some other big names are not there. I wanted to give mention to certain clubs that I feel like have had fantastic midfielders that have been pivotal to the way that these players have played, these teams have played, and the way what they've been able to build in terms of success this season, far beyond the means of what we expected them to reach. I think Bruno Guimaraes facilitates everything for Newcastle. Yes, there's been a little bit of a downtick right now over the last few games, but it is tailing off towards the end of the season. There has been a little period where he had an injury problem, where he had a suspension issue. But I think overall you have to give credit to the way that he's able to be the only real technical superior player in the Newcastle midfield. Everyone else is physical dominant in that midfield and defensive setup. Trippier is the one you can also argue is the technical presence over the physical side. And that's why I feel Guimaraes is so important. And that's why you really see him in the central area, almost occupying it alone. Everyone else in the midfield is either out wide or helping out wingers out wide. And the wingers also stay wide to the touchline, and the center forward doesn't really drop in much. So it's really all being created through Bruno. And that's why he has to be a big mention in this. And I almost put him into the starting 11. I think Caicedo, we're seeing him emerge as the next superstar in midfield as well. Him alongside the Declan Rice, but I couldn't put Declan Rice into this team of the season. He just performed too badly, wasn't consistent enough, and had some bad games as a team. And that collectiveness is still going to play a factor. Team success has to matter. And that's where team success, I think, comes in as well with Douglas Luiz. I think the run they've gone on, him being the best player during that run, has led for me to say, yes, he's someone that I think has added drive to the midfield, his defensive tenacity, the playmaking ability. He's added goals and assists to his game. I think he's been an underrated factor in that team, and I think that's why we've seen clubs like Arsenal were looking for him and were targeting him for so long. I think he should definitely get a shout. Yes, I probably, if it wasn't for the fact that I wanted to include different players from different teams, I probably would have included Alexis Mac Allister, because he does deserve a shout as well. The way he's been able to transition different systems, different teams this season, and play different positions for Brighton and still maintain the high level of playmaking from both and adding goals and assists to that. But I do believe if you have to choose a Brighton midfielder, I think Caicedo's had a higher ceiling this year. I think he's reached higher levels of performance. His recovery tackles is something almost on the level of Kante-like. But he also, I think, has a fantastic high-level technical ability to find passes, ability to play multiple positions. And I think whoever signs him in the summer, if he leaves, it has a real gem on their hands. Now, going into the main three, this is the starting three for me. It's Rodri, De Bruyne, and Odegaard. I think Odegaard and De Bruyne almost speak for themselves in the sense of you have the top creator in the league, the best player in the league, in De Bruyne. He's again maintained that high level of football. He is the best player in the world and amongst the all-time greats. He can really encapsulate everything that has been beautiful and amazing to watch him, about watching him play over the last few years, by going on to win this treble. I don't want it to happen, of course, but I do believe that this is now his time to get to that level and put himself in the pantheon of all-time greats. This is his chance now for De Bruyne. In terms of Odegaard, you've seen someone who's been able at 24 to take over a leadership and a captaincy role and lead a team almost to a league title against one of the most dominant league sides in the history of the Premier League. Because now they are three-time winners. They've three-peated. They've won 5 and 6. This is one of the historic teams of the Premier League era. And we don't know how long this dominance continues. Yet they've almost managed to push them all the way to the end. Was it not for mess-ups against West Ham and Southampton, this team probably goes on to win the league. And you cannot understate that for how impressive Odegaard has been to lead that team. Yes, he's had help in other leadership areas. Yes, they've been helped by the fact that there's been inconsistencies to other teams. But that doesn't take away from the fact that they had reached a point total and halfway through the season, which was at 50, on course for 100. At 27 games, they're on 66, which is matching the Centurion season from City. I believe that he's been fantastic the way he's been able to create the 15 goals he's added from midfield. These are all without penalties, which is without a doubt one of the most impressive accomplishments you'll see from someone that hasn't even played as a complete attacking midfielder. He's played a lot as an 8 that's had to help out on the right side. He drops into a position of playmaking. He's a pass-first player still, but the way the Arsenal team just flows it's a beautiful attacking philosophy that they have that's able to create so many goals for so many different players. And that's why you have 4 players on 10 plus. Now, the DM I went with was Rodri. I went with him over Bruno Guimaraes. I just believe Rodri's level of performance has been so consistent for so long over the course of the season, rather than Bruno, where you have had certain dips. I think Rodri really shows how crucial he is to the City team in terms of just facilitating first phase plays, the composure in the ball, the press resistance, and also adding a little bit of a defensive side. I think his defensive side and his defensive ability is a little bit overstated, but I still nevertheless think that it's a huge facet that adds to City's team. I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm not going to talk too much more on Rodri. I think we all know about Rodri at this point and how amazing he is. You might be surprised I didn't put in a Casemiro, but I just believe that he hasn't played enough games. That's one. The suspensions, I think, hurt his resume, and I think the lack of form towards the end of the season has made me remove him from the conversation between Rodri and Bruno Guimaraes. I just believe that if he had played more game, I think he'd definitely in here in terms of impact. I think he's number 1 on this list. Maybe Guimaraes is above him. Going into the wingers, I want to start off with, let me start off with that, because I think the striker is pretty, it's standard, straightforward. I think everyone knows the answers to it. On the right, I went with Salah as the runner-up, and I went with Saka as the winner. He's number 1. The reason I went Salah as number 2, instead of giving, I think, just purely team success in terms of consistency of performance over the course of the season. I think both of them have been fantastic over the season, but I just think that Saka has shown that level for a longer period of time over the season, rather than Salah, where he did have a little bit of a dip from his usual form at the beginning of the season, and then that improved towards the end. The fact that Salah has still managed to outscore him. He's probably going to beat him in terms of goal and assists as well over the course of the season. That just shows you what kind of an output monster he is and how great he is as an all-time great now, in terms of an all-time Premier League great, in terms of probably the greatest African product ever. And he's really pushing himself into that all-time list of wingers and attackers, and that's something that you have to maintain at a certain level to be able to still be put in these teams this season, because we have to expect that from you. Same way you expect it from De Bruyne, and De Bruyne managed to match that kind of performances this season, and that's why he goes straight in. If you're that kind of all-time player, all you have to do really is maintain that performance, you're in, right? Because it's almost like your name is penciled in. But he did have a little bit of dip off from that. The team in general had a dip off from that, and if you're not even making top 4, I can't put you in over a team that almost won the league in Saka. Yes, it is a little bit of a narrative thing, but I just think the narrative with Saka has been better over the season, and therefore I think you go with Saka. And I also think it goes to reward him for the performances that he's been able to have, and the fact that Arsenal's team has a severe drop-off when he does not play, in terms of their creation, in terms of their edge, in terms of 1v1. There's no one that can replace what Saka does. He also helps out his fullbacks at an insane amount, and I think he's a versatile player that can play in multiple different positions. We've seen that over the years at Arsenal. This season, not as much. He has been implemented as a wide right player almost every game, but that's because of how essential he is to the way Arteta wants the team to play. Going on to the left. Now, I think the two are pretty inarguable, the two top left wingers of the season. I think it's Martinelli and Rashford. Deciding between the two was a little bit difficult. I think I went with it due to the fact of the impact on the team. I think one is more irreplaceable than the other, and that's why I went with Rashford as the number 1 guy and Martinelli as the runner-up. Martinelli scored 15, Rashford scored 16. It's very comparable numbers, but I just think the fact that Rashford's managed to do it in a system that is so heavily reliant on him to create, almost through individual brilliance a lot of the time, because it's through transitional play, through 1v1 duels, and winning those to create those chances for himself. And he's also one of the few XG outperformers in his team, while Martinelli is amongst many in his team. Arsenal as a team have overperformed the XG by 14. Martinelli has been able to profit and become useful in a team that he was going to be iced out of. As I'm saying that, the Arsenal-Brighton game is happening right now, and I think Martinelli has just gone off injured. Not ideal. But Martinelli has had a great output this season. He's becoming that kind of player for Arsenal that they're going to be able to have as an output machine, either centrally, which is where I would prefer him to play, or even out left, he is able to produce those numbers. I think he struggles a little bit in 1v1 duels, struggles a little bit in terms of the playmaking and the build-up play. But I think he's going to be an essential figure in this Arsenal team for years to come. And I think if he can become a transitional monster that I believe he has the ceiling to do, he's going to be a fantastic character in this Arsenal squad for years to come. Rashford, however, has been the talisman for United, propelling them into a probable top 4 finish while scoring the most important goals for them throughout the season. Without them, it just doesn't seem like there is any real chance creation, any goal scoring threat, and that's why he's been so important, and he has to be number 1. Now, in terms of strikers, runner-up is Harry Kane, main centre forward, and the player of the season is Erling Haaland. There's just not much else to say about him. He's been the best player. He's broken every record. You can't really say much more on him. Nothing more that hasn't already been stated. I'll probably do another video talking about just the qualities of the Man City team once they do win the league. I feel like giving the team, the Premier League winning team, their final video talking about their entire team and analysis on the entire squad is only the justice to them. The runner-up is Harry Kane. I think he's had a fantastic season. He's on, 26 or 27 goals right now? I think he's on 27 goals, which is the golden boot in, the last 4 or 5 years has been the golden boot. I think since probably Salah won it last Salah's first one was the last time someone scored that many goals. But for him not to win the golden boot is so unfortunate. But he's been fantastic, and I think he has to make the move this summer. And he's been the talisman and the bright light in the Spurs team that have had a very down year this year. And I think without his goals, they would be in a world of trouble. They would have probably a Chelsea-esque season. He has to make the move this summer. It just needs to happen. And then I think I could still make the argument that Kane is the best striker in the league, the best striker in the world potentially. And that's why for me, he should be someone that can compete for that first starting lineup where you even start to adjust position just to make sure that he's in there. But it's just not there when your team is so far down and you haven't had the team success to match it. So the impact isn't as significant because it's impact for nothing. So that's why someone like Declan Rice is you might have a big impact on your team. They way worse if you don't play, but it hasn't actually provided any actual results. And football is so result-orientated. That being said, this is my Premier League team of the season. Goalkeeper Ramsdale, right back Trippier, centre backs Botman and Saliba, left back Luke Shaw, DM Rodri, midfielders De Bruyne and Odegaard, wingers Saka and Rashford, and striker Erling Haaland. Thank you for watching. This is going to be my last video probably for a week's time. Going to Milan, gonna watch the Milan derby, going to the San Siro. It's gonna be great vibes, hopefully. I initially thought I was sitting in the Milan away end and I was like, oh, this is gonna be the most depressing atmosphere in the world. But thankfully we ended up getting lucky. We got Inter home seats in a central area as well, so hopefully it's gonna be good viewing. The atmosphere should be electric. It's going to be one of the last significant games at the San Siro before it gets demolished. And I'm very excited to watch it. Very excited to be there. Excited to experience Milan the first time I'm going. And I'll be sure to start uploading and making videos again once I'm back. Please leave any comments. Go watch some of my other videos. If you do want to see more videos, I know they don't have the most views. But if you are interested in other topics, there's a whole almost 40 videos of, I believe, great football content that you can watch. So if you do me a favor, please go back, subscribe, let me know anything you would want changed in the videos, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye bye.